It's 9:30. Good morning and welcome to LJ News. Crippled by financial failure, leveled by cyclones, and often looted by vandals, they now exist as scars on idyllic landscapes, as inglorious beacons of the past. A handful of once abandoned resorts have now reopened and are thriving, including Hayman Island and Daydream Island, while Lindeman Island Resort was bought late last year after lying empty for 10 years. Others, such as the Crumbling Bridges Resort on Hinchinbrook Island, have literally been wiped off the map with nature allowed to reclaim. Others await a new chapter that may or may not come. Most island resorts, 35 in total, are leased from the Queensland government. 12 of them are currently closed, and of these, only 6 have plans to reopen. In the meantime, some of the derelict remains have almost become destinations in themselves. The remnants of this wilderness resort have stood empty in Cape York for more than 2 decades. Cape York Wilderness Lodge was originally opened by Bush Pilot Airways in 1986 and passed through other owners before being taken over by Injinu Aboriginal Corporation in 1992 and renamed the Pajinka Wilderness Lodge. It closed in 2002 for renovations after a fire damaged the buildings, but has remained in a forlorn state ever since. Tourists are forced to walk through the resort's ruins when they follow the track to Australia's northernmost tip. Many seem to revel in their ghostly discovery, posting pictures of its decaying pool and graffiti al fresco bar on social media. This once sparkling resort opened with plenty of fanfare in 1992 and featured a golf course designed by Greg Norman and luxury villas caressed by landscape gardens. But it was closed 3 years later due to bankruptcy. A Hong Kong-based company bought it 10 years ago, but there's been no progress since to revive the place. Some say the resort was forever doomed by its unattractively named setting, located on Repulse Bay and close to Midge Point. Tourism was still the cottage industry in Queensland when the wealthy Owasaki family from Japan opened one of Australia's first integrated resorts on the Capricorn Coast in the 1980s. It boasted hundreds of suites, the largest pools in the Southern Hemisphere, and 2 golf courses, and catered to large numbers of international visitors. It was managed by both Regis and Aker Mercure for a time, but in 2016, with visitors complaining that facilities were daggy or in disrepair, Mercure closed its doors. The resort remains dilapidated through the Iwasaki family, who still own the site, say they're continuing to look at redevelopment options. Great Couple Island lured the party crowd in the 1980s with its slogan, "Get Wrecked," but the fun was all low when the global financial crisis hit in 2008. Tower Holdings, which had intended to redevelop the picture's property, abandoned the idea and decided to sell the decaying resort with approved plans in place. The project has attracted a handful of prospective buyers over the years, including billionaire Gina Reinhardt's Hancock Prospecting, but those plans have also been wrecked. Australia's wealthiest woman said she wanted to create a world-class resort on Great Couple, but in June she pulled the plug on the deal, rumored to be around $50 million, without citing a reason. Tower Holdings reportedly continues to look for a new owner or partner as the resort lies in ruins. Lying 4 kilometers off the dreamy Kasawari coast near Mission Beach, the resort on Dunk Island was smashed by Cyclone Yasi in 2011 and has been languishing in disrepair ever since. The resort is on private land and was purchased in 2012 by mining and energy executive Peter Bond, then by Annie Cannon-Brooks, wife of Atlassian co-founder Mike Cannon-Brooks in 2022. There's now hope for an exclusive redevelopment on the island. South Mole Island has been built as a Whitsunday paradise since the 1950s, and the resort ran successfully for decades until Cyclone Debbie left it almost unrecognizable in 2017. Cabins have been ripped open to the elements, the golf course and tennis courts are being encroached by nature, and the jetty lies twisted in the sea. The owner, Shanghai-based China Capital Investment Group, by sheer misfortune, bought the resort with plans to redevelop just a year before Debbie ripped through. The company was behind the successful redevelopment of Daydream Island, so there is hope of a reopening, but no indication of when this may happen. While newer resorts are constructed to be more resistant to cyclones, commercial success is harder to guarantee. Labor, logistics, ongoing leasehold fees, and upkeep make the day-to-day running of these large accommodation ventures incredibly expensive. Quiet periods can be financially catastrophic. Associate Professor Pierre Benkendorf, a tourism expert based at the University of Queensland, said Australian resorts can find it tough to compete with overseas offerings. Established resort destinations in Indonesia, Fiji, Thailand, and Malaysia, but also emerging destinations like the Philippines and Sri Lanka, all have much lower construction and labor costs and can offer five-star luxury experience at a lower price point, he said. Professor Daniel Schwind at Griffith University's Institute for Tourism said running an island resort requires special expertise. It has a very romantic appeal, but it needs to be combined with sufficient business nous to turn the romance into a long-lasting relationship. The challenges don't appear to have deterred investors. In the past year, leases for 6 islands have either transferred to new parties or have current contracts of sale in place, according to the Queensland Department of Resources. Meanwhile, the state government is currently conducting a parliamentary inquiry to the economic and regulatory frameworks for island resorts. Mr. Schwinn said the lease system enables ongoing reassessment of whether a resort is working from a commercial or environmental point of view. A big resort is just one idea, he said. There's also glamping, something sustainable and small, or something for families. We have a broad spectrum of opportunities, and they can all be created.